There is a moment in every human life when everything feels like it is collapsing at once. Plans fail, people disappoint you, expectations dissolve into nothing, and suddenly you realize something uncomfortable. You are not in control of the world, and if you are not careful, you will allow the world to control you. This is where most people lose themselves. They become reactive. They become emotional prisoners. They become dependent on circumstances they were never meant to control. But the Stoics saw this differently. They understood a truth that most people spend their entire lives avoiding. Nothing outside of you has the power to disturb you, unless you allow it. Let that sink in. Not the insult, not the failure, not the betrayal, not even loss itself. The disturbance does not come from the event. It comes from your judgment of the event, and that changes everything. From a young age, you were taught, subtly or directly, that your happiness depends on external things. You were told that success would fulfill you, that approval would validate you, that love would complete you, that comfort would stabilize you. But look around. People who have everything still suffer. People who are praised still feel insecure. People who succeed still feel empty. Why? Because they built their emotional state on unstable ground. They handed over control of their inner world to things that constantly change. And anything that depends on what changes will eventually collapse. This is the trap. You think you are reacting to reality, but in truth, you are reacting to your interpretation of reality. And interpretations can be trained. The foundation of Stoic philosophy is simple, but brutal in its honesty. There are things you control, and there are things you do not. You control your thoughts, your actions, your responses, your values. You do not control other people's outcomes, opinions, events. Yet most people invert this. They obsess over what they cannot control and neglect what they can. They try to control how others see them. They try to control results. They try to control the future. And in doing so, they lose control of the only thing that matters: themselves. If you want peace, real peace, you must make a decision. Stop negotiating with what you cannot control. Every time something external changes your state, you are giving away power. Someone criticizes you, you feel anger. Something fails, you feel defeated. Someone ignores you, you feel insecure. At first, this feels normal. But think deeper. If your emotions depend on others, then your life is not yours. It belongs to whoever can trigger you. That is emotional slavery. Now, imagine the opposite. Someone insults you, and you remain calm. Something fails, and you stay focused. Someone leaves, and you remain whole. This is not indifference. This is mastery. This is inner freedom. Here is where most people misunderstand discipline. They think being unaffected means feeling nothing. That is not true. You will feel the first reaction. You will feel anger, sadness, frustration. That is human. But the Stoics teach something deeper. You are not your first reaction. You are your second response. The first reaction is automatic. The second is a choice. And in that space, between stimulus and response, lies your power. Most people never develop this space. They react instantly. They speak without thinking. They act without reflection. But if you train yourself to pause, even for a few seconds, you begin to take control back. Every situation is neutral. Yes, even the painful ones. It is your mind that assigns meaning. You see failure, you call it defeat. Another sees failure, They call it training. You see rejection. You call it loss. Another sees rejection. They call it redirection. Same event, different interpretation, different outcome. This is why two people can go through the same experience and come out completely different. One breaks, the other becomes stronger. The difference is not the world. The difference is the lens. If you want to become unshakable, you must train your perception. Ask yourself, what else could this mean? How can this serve me? What can I learn here? This is not delusion. This is strategy. Detachment does not mean you stop caring. It means you stop attaching your peace to outcomes. You do your best. You act with intention. You commit fully. But you do not tie your identity to the result, because results are never fully yours. And the moment your identity depends on something unstable, you become unstable too. Detachment gives you something powerful: consistency. You are not high when things go well. You are not destroyed when things go wrong. You become steady. And in a chaotic world, steadiness is a superpower. Let's be honest, this is not easy. Most people try to stay unaffected until something hits them hard: a betrayal, a loss, a deep disappointment. And suddenly, all philosophy disappears. Why? Because they never trained in calm moments. You don't build strength during chaos. You reveal it. If you want to be unshakable when it matters, you must practice when it doesn't. Small irritations, daily inconveniences, minor frustrations. These are your training ground. Every time you stay calm when it's easier to react, you are building control. And over time, that control becomes your nature. The Stoics often spoke about building an inner fortress, a place within you that cannot be touched by the outside world. Not by opinions, not by events, not by chaos. This fortress is not built overnight. It is built decision by decision. Choosing not to react, choosing to stay calm, choosing to think clearly, choosing discipline over impulse. Each choice is a brick, and eventually, you become someone who cannot be easily shaken. The world will not become easier. People will not become more predictable. Life will not become more fair. But you can become stronger. You can become calmer. You can become unshakable. And when you reach that point, something powerful happens. The world loses its power over you. There's a hidden pattern behind every emotional reaction you have. It feels immediate. It feels automatic. It feels justified. But it is not random. Every reaction you experience is rooted in something deeper: a belief, an expectation, an attachment. And until you understand this, you will continue reacting the same way, again and again. Most people think their problem is what happened. The disrespect made me angry. The rejection hurt me. The failure destroyed my confidence. But that's not the truth. The event is only the surface. The real cause lies underneath. You are not upset because something happened. You are upset because it violated an expectation you had. You expected respect. You expected success. You expected acceptance. And when reality didn't match your expectation, you suffered. This is the hidden mechanism of emotional pain, not reality itself, but resistance to reality. Expectations feel harmless. In fact, they often feel necessary. You expect people to treat you well. You expect your efforts to pay off. You expect life to follow a certain path. But expectations come with a cost. They create invisible contracts with the world, and the world never signed them. So when reality breaks those contracts, you feel betrayed. But the truth is uncomfortable. You were not betrayed. You were attached. The solution is not to expect less. It is to see clearly. Understand this. People act according to who they are, not who you want them to be. Some will disappoint you. Some will misunderstand you. Some will leave. Not because of you, but because of them. Once you truly accept this, something shifts. You stop being surprised. You stop being shaken. You start observing instead of reacting. And observation creates distance. Distance creates control. Criticism is one of the biggest emotional triggers. A single comment can ruin your mood. A single opinion can shake your confidence, but only if you let it. Here's the Stoic approach. First, separate the criticism into two categories. 1. Is it true? 2. Is it false? If it is true, then it is not an attack. It is information. And information is useful. Use it to improve. If it is false, then it has no value. And something that has no value does not deserve your energy. Either way, there's no reason to be disturbed. But most people skip this process. They react emotionally before thinking rationally. And that's where they lose. You don't get hurt easily. Your ego does. The ego wants to be right. It wants to be respected. It wants to be seen as important. So when something threatens that image, it reacts. Anger, defensiveness, insecurity. But here's the truth. The stronger your ego, the easier it is to control you, because anyone can trigger it. True strength is not in protecting your image. It is in not needing one. Rejection feels personal. It feels like a judgment of your worth. But in reality, rejection is simply a mismatch. Different values, different timing, different priorities. That's all. When someone rejects you, they are not defining you. They are revealing themselves, their preferences, their limitations, their perspective. And none of that determines your value. The moment you stop taking rejection personally, you become free. If you want to stay calm under pressure, you must prepare your mind. The Stoics practiced something powerful. They imagined difficult situations before they happened. Criticism, failure, loss, disrespect. Not to become negative, but to become ready. When you mentally rehearse challenges, two things happen. They lose their emotional shock. You develop a planned response, so when it actually happens, you don't react, you execute. There's a voice in your head, and whether you realize it or not, that voice shapes your reality. After something happens, it starts speaking. This is terrible. I can't handle this. This always happens to me. And if you don't control it, you will believe it. But here's the truth. That voice is not always right. In fact, most of the time, it exaggerates, distorts, and dramatizes. Your job is to challenge it. Replace, "This is the worst thing ever," with, "This is uncomfortable but manageable." Replace, "I failed completely," with, "I learned something valuable." This is not fake positivity. This is disciplined thinking. Most people live between emotional extremes, very high or very low, excited when things go well, destroyed when things go wrong. But this instability creates weakness, because your state is always changing. Stoicism offers something different: neutrality, not numbness, not indifference, but stability. You remain grounded regardless of what happens. And when you are stable, you make better decisions. Clear mind, controlled actions, consistent behavior. That's how real strength looks. This is where most people resist. They want peace, but they don't want responsibility. They want the world to behave in a way that keeps them calm. But that will never happen. The world is unpredictable. People are inconsistent. Life is uncertain. If your peace depends on external order, you will always be disturbed. So you have two choices: control the world, impossible, or control yourself, powerful. There are things you are still holding on to: past mistakes, old pain, regret, resentment, and you think holding on gives you control. But it doesn't. It keeps you stuck. Every time you revisit the past, you relive the emotion. And every time you relive the emotion, you weaken your present. Letting go is not forgetting. It is deciding that it no longer controls you. If you want to master this, you need practice. Here's a simple daily structure. Morning. You cannot stop life from happening. You cannot stop people from acting. You cannot stop challenges from coming. But you can stop one thing: yourself from being controlled by them. And when you reach that level, you don't just become stronger, you become untouchable. Prepare your mind. Expect challenges. Set your standard of behavior. During the day, observe your reactions. Pause before responding. Choose control over impulse. Night. Reflect honestly. Where did you lose control? Where did you improve? This is how you build awareness. And awareness is the beginning of mastery. At this point, you already understand something most people never truly grasp. The world does not control you. People do not control you. Events do not control you. Only your response does. But understanding is not enough. Because in moments of pressure, knowledge disappears if it is not internalized. This is where you separate two types of people: those who know and those who live it. Fear feels real. It tightens your chest. It clouds your thinking, makes you hesitate. But look closer. Fear is almost always about something that has not happened yet: a future scenario, a possible failure, an imagined outcome. In other words, fear is a projection of the mind, and projections can be challenged. Ask yourself, is this happening now? What evidence do I actually have? What is the worst realistic outcome? Most of the time, you will realize something powerful. You are suffering more in imagination than in reality. And once you see that, fear begins to lose its grip. Anxiety is not random. It comes from trying to control what cannot be controlled. You try to control the future. You try to control outcomes. You try to control how things will unfold. And when reality feels uncertain, you feel unstable. But here is the shift. Uncertainty is not your enemy. Attachment to certainty is. The more you need things to go a certain way, the more fragile you become. But when you accept uncertainty, you become adaptable. And adaptability is power. There's only one place where you have control. Now. Not yesterday. Not tomorrow. Not what might happen. Only now. Yet most people live outside of it. They regret the past. They fear the future. And in doing so, they lose the present. But the present is where your power lives. Your next decision, your next action, your next thought. If you focus fully on what is in front of you, you eliminate distraction, you reduce anxiety, you increase clarity, and clarity leads to control. This is one of the biggest hidden weaknesses: the need to be seen, the need to be approved, the need to be validated. It seems harmless, but it makes you dependent. Because the moment your value depends on others, you lose ownership of it. You adjust your behavior to please. You silence yourself to avoid judgment. You hesitate to act without approval. And slowly, you stop being yourself. Stoicism teaches something different. Your value is defined by your character, not by opinions, not by attention, not by recognition. When you truly accept this, You become dangerous in the best way possible because you no longer need permission to act. Not everything requires a response. Not every opinion deserves your attention. Not every situation needs your reaction. But most people feel compelled to respond, to defend, to argue, to prove. And in doing so, they waste energy. Silence is not weakness. Silence is control. When you choose not to react, you are not losing. You are deciding that your peace is more valuable than being right. This is a skill that changes everything. People will project onto you their frustration, their insecurity, their anger. And if you are not aware, you will absorb it. But remember, what people say and do is a reflection of them, not you. Once you truly internalize this, you stop carrying what was never yours. This is the ultimate goal, not temporary calm, not occasional control, but a mind that remains stable no matter what happens. To build this, you need repetition, you need awareness, and most importantly, you need standards. Set a rule for yourself. I do not react impulsively. I do not let emotions control my actions. I do not depend on external validation. I remain calm under pressure. At first, this will feel forced. Then it becomes intentional. And eventually, it becomes who you are. You will experience pain. Loss will happen. Failure will happen. Disappointment will happen. This is part of life. But suffering is created by resistance. I wish this didn't happen. This shouldn't be this way. I can't accept this. The more you resist reality, the more you suffer. But when you accept it, you don't become weak. You become clear. And clarity allows you to move forward. Every reaction you repeat becomes a pattern. Every pattern becomes a habit. Every habit becomes your character. So ask yourself, what are you practicing daily? Reacting or staying calm? Complaining or adapting? Seeking validation or building self-respect? Because whether you realize it or not, you are training your mind every single day. At some point, something changes. You stop reacting the way you used to. Things that once triggered you no longer do. Situations that once stressed you feel manageable. People who once affected you lose their influence. And you realize something powerful. It's not that life became easier. It's that you became stronger. Do not let anything affect you. Not because nothing matters, but because your peace matters more. Guard your mind. Discipline your thoughts. Control your responses. And build something within you that the world cannot shake. Because once you reach that level, you don't just live differently. You rise above everything that once controlled you.